young age, she would dream about a red-haired figure who would carry a teddy bear and watch her sleep. She would ask to come play, but she could never move or scream. As she grew older, that figure would come back more often. She talked to her therapist about her nightmares and was given a number for a dream specialist. She instantly called them, and in about a week, she met the doctor. There was something about the doctor's eyes that seemed familiar to her, but she didn't know from where. The doctor sent her into a dark room with bright white walls and told her to lie down on a chair along with a warm blanket. The doctor sets the timer, and within 10 minutes, she is fast asleep, and she could feel herself slipping away into darkness. Darker and darker every time. Suddenly, she woke up in a dark hospital room, and a terrible stench hit her nose. A stench that she would not forget. Never in her life had she felt as frightened as in that moment. She could not move a finger, and the entity was drawing closer and closer to the bedside. On the other side of the room, the doctor was staring at her with a frightening expression, and all of a sudden began to laugh. A laugh the girl had never heard before. As she keeps laughing, her skin begins to melt and melt until her skull and bony hands are visible. Then she immediately falls to the ground. The entity starts to put her hands around the girl's neck and squeezing until she can't breathe. The girl stares at her dark eyes and feels her cold fingers around her. She decides to not look at her and tries to relax. And within 15 seconds, she could see that room and the entity disappear. As soon as she wakes up, her eyes begin to adjust to the room and looks around. But everything is very dark. There is no one there, and it is slightly cold. Removing the cables from her head, she gets up slowly and doesn't hear a sound. She is walking around and searching for a light switch. When she suddenly finds the switch, she immediately turns it on. Her eyes are still adjusting to the light, but as soon as they do, she notices something on the ground. Getting closer and closer, she realizes what it is. The doctor is on her side. But as soon as the girl moves her, a horror strikes her. The doctor had died the exact same way as in her dream. Her face had completely melted, and her skull was also showing, but she could not comprehend how this had happened. It was horrifying to look at. She was later interrogated by the police, but there was no evidence to prove her guilty. The cameras showed only the woman collapsing to the ground without explanation. As she got home, all she could do was lie down on her bed, replaying her nightmare in the face of the woman. Something so horrifying and unexplainable that she would never forget. Why had this entity been haunting her all her life? Who was she? As she got up from her bed, walked slowly towards the bathroom. She removed her hair away from her neck and inspected it carefully. There were bruises on her neck shaped like bony hands. She began to worry that this thing was getting stronger, scared that it would show up in other places besides her sleep. Yes, she was lucky for a week. She did not have sleep paralysis, but afterwards, her nightmares had returned. Every time They felt more and more real. Then one night, in one of her nightmares, she saw herself staring at her bathroom mirror with a dim night light by her sink. As she looked carefully, her own figure had turned into that entity, but she was frozen and could not scream or move. The entity immediately stuck her hands out of the mirror and took her along with her. 2 weeks later, she was reported missing, but the only thing they ever found was broken glass. She was never seen again.